only by frozen memories. Get away, get lost. Get away, it's time. Get away, get racing all these broken dreams tonight.
Morning, everybody. It's Friday. Hey, awesome. It is Friday. This is exactly the kind of thing that we like, right? So, go ahead and start asking your questions. I know there's not too many people right now. Hopefully that increases a little bit, but just hop on over into the live chat. And if you have a question, then I'll be sure to answer it. To get us started, though, I always like to have a few things just kind of kicking around just to kind of talk about for, give everybody a little bit of time to sit in, grab a cup of coffee, just like mine. I'm surprised no one ever asks, like, Steve, how do you make your coffee? What do you put in it? I'm always kind of curious about stuff like that. It's weird, right? Watching, like, your favorite streamer on, like, Twitch or something, and Like, I wonder what they do when they're not live. What are they like? Do they have cats? Do they have dogs? Is there some other place besides that library around? Right? Like this. I can change it up too. I can change the background. This is just obviously green screen, and I'm just kind of sitting here in my office. So, what do we got to talk about today? So, let me switch on over here to my screen. I have several news articles that I just kind of pulled up that I thought were interesting on various topics, and boy, isn't that what everybody likes to hear on the stream, is somebody clearing their throat. So, yesterday, Sonic the Hedgehog trailer dropped, and let's see, maybe I can. Do I have the? Maybe I should go find it. The Sonic the Hedgehog movie trailer. Oh, ooh. Let's give you guys a little sound. Right. Yeah, people really don't like the look of Sonic.
Gotta go fast.
Mm.
20 minutes ago, an energy surge knocked out power across the entire Pacific Northwest. This needs someone who can figure out exactly what we're dealing with.
You're not suggesting who I think you're suggesting.
We have no choice.
Oh dear.
Are you in charge here?
Yes, I am.
Nope!
I do like the
My
cast
mom.
of actors.
I'm in charge.
Allow me to clarify. In a sequentially ranked hierarchy based on level of critical importance, the disparity between us is too vast to quantify. Agent Stone?
The doctor thinks you're basic.
Listen, pal, I don't know if you realize who...
I'm sorry, Major. What was your name?
Benny. Nobody cares.
Jim Carrey.
SFPD.
Ugh.
Meow.
Yeah, I can see why.
Okay, pal, I want answers. Basically, it looks like I'm gonna have to save your planet.
Yeah, I think that he looks kind of.
All you got?
I don't know. There's
but
something
thank you
about
for
the look of
asking.
him. Jim Carrey's a bad guy, huh?
This creature is. Our job is to secure it, neutralize it, see what makes it tick.
Look at this. I took 9 million steps today.
So he can just stop time.
Stay in there and be quiet.
How much longer? I can't breathe in here.
Do you have your child in that bag?
No. I mean, yes, it's a child, but it's not mine.
It's not your child.
Smells like body spray in an old ham sandwich.
I mean, looks kind of funny. It's got it. It looks like it's got its moments. But oops. I mean, look at those thumbs down. Looks like one of my political videos, right? We hate you. Yeah. I mean, you know, the good thing is, this is what I wanted to point out about this was like, a lot of people didn't like the look of Sonic, and I kind of have to agree. It doesn't look all that great, right? Like this was. You liked the coffee shop? I can switch you back to the coffee shop. But yeah, I mean, look at this. This guy looks. Yeah, the eyes are a little weird. The mouth. Oh my gosh. Like it's supposed to have human lips. Oof. I would think that would be like a little bit more furry and less. Like, let's take a look at what does Sonic the Hedgehog actually look like, right? Let's take a look at some images. See, so like there's no, it's just like an open mouth. There's no lips. I think that's part of the creepiness. It's like we grew up with no lips for him, right? Like even here, there's it's just a cut out open hole, right, for a mouth. So having that and then seeing those lips on him is just kind of like, where did you get that from? Yeah, and the hair, it doesn't quite match. I don't know. They tried. I got to give them credit. Like, CGI stuff is hard. Doing anything in CGI is really, really hard. And I think that a lot of people have just gotten spoiled on the way that things look. If this had come out in 1999 or something, right, people would be like, oh my God, look at the CGI. It's awesome. Right? But nowadays, we're just so used to the CGI and the graphics and stuff being so good that we just assume that it's going to be fantastic on every movie, and if it's not perfect, then we got to go after them. Yeah, he's too skinny and too tall. I think that's probably about right. I think that's probably right. But here's the thing. The director came back and said, we understand the criticism. You guys have spoken. It's loud and clear. We've seen the thumbs down. We're not going to do like what Disney does when you complain about Star Wars. We're not going to tell you you guys are all just terrible human beings for XYZ reasons. Instead, no, we're going to listen to you. This is okay. We hear you. We can change things. Like this is something we're going to make sure is right. We want to make sure it's right. And we want to please the fans. And I think that's how fans really in general want it. And I don't know that they're going to be able to even fix Sonic to the point where we're all going to be satisfied. No one's going to be totally satisfied. But, it is kind of interesting to me that here Jeff Fowler is saying, yeah, we'll change it. You guys have told us exactly what you think, and okay, we're going to move on. And the editors and the creators and everybody who went through this process, at some point, nobody said this was a bad version of Sonic during the entire creation process. It wasn't until this thing got released out to the public in the form of a trailer that people were like, whoa, this doesn't look right at all. And they still have the ability to go back and make those changes, which is pretty amazing. So, okay, that's one thing. I just thought that was really, really cool. And so completely different than how Disney's handled Star Wars or some of the Marvel criticisms. And I find it absolutely refreshing. I'm so glad. Well, I'm kind of curious now. I really hope that Sonic, because of this attitude, because of this, hey, we're willing to modify because of your guys' feedback. We're willing to make changes. I'm interested to see if Hollywood respond, or if they do the right things and that they succeed. I really hope to see that, because I'd like to see a company or a film that is willing to make those adjustments and willing to make those changes. I want to see them succeed especially above those industries that or above those developers. I say developers, because they are developers in some way, but above those movie creators that are so against their own viewers, like what Star Wars has been doing lately. It's just amazing. Okay, so then there's this little boy. I don't know if anybody else was affected by this, but we were down for about 2 hours. We had an outage with Azure. And it was all Azure. There was nothing we could do. It was just, and this is a pretty big deal. This could probably drive some lawsuits. It was midday. This was from about 1:50 Pacific time until about almost 4 o'clock before they got it back online. So that was a long, long time. 2 hours and 15 minutes or however long it was. Yeah, almost 2 hours. That outage, think of how many millions of dollars were lost by a bunch of companies. And they're going to be coming after Microsoft for it. They're going to be coming after it. And this is kind of the danger of the cloud. This is kind of the danger of these strategies of these different... oh, Kent, you retracted your message, but I liked it. I thought it was fine. I thought it was right. So I think that there's more of these companies that are going to the cloud, and Microsoft has had to figure out where they're going to start making their money, because now that like Windows is for desktops, and we still have a large variety of desktops and laptops, right? There's still a lot of that out there. But as far as the market share, like who's going out and buying desktops and laptops much anymore? The real thing that people are buying right now that's technology driven is the cell phones, right? That's kind of where people spend most of their money when it comes to technology nowadays, is on their cell phones. Or some sort of tablet, okay, that is not necessarily going to have Windows on it. It's going to have like Android or Apple or something like that on it. So they've had to find some other strategy of making money, and they've gone to Azure. Azure has become like their number one money maker. That's been their strategy, and it was a good strategy. But if stuff like this happens, when stuff like this happens, and the infrastructure is so important for so many companies, and we're talking multi-millions of dollars, billions of dollars, most likely, of money that's being managed through Azure, or companies, multi-billion-dollar companies that their infrastructure is on Azure, and then Azure goes down for 2 hours, that opens up a world of lawsuits, right? There could be, I don't know if we're going to see a class action lawsuit. I don't know if it's going to be, each individual company that's going to go after them. But again, this goes to kind of some of the things that I've been pointing out before about, I've been harping on the 737 MAX, but I don't know exactly what mangled it down, and maybe, I don't know exactly what caused it. It looks like multiple services. The incident had a knock-on effect for Azure Compute. So it was a DNS migration. So they were moving DNS registrations and DNS records from one server to another. So the DNS records were none of the DNS records were impacted. But obviously a lot of places like our company went down. So possible reason for the slower than expected restoration time is that that affected Microsoft apps and services may have cached the incorrect domain records, according to Microsoft. These would have been restored as the cached information expired. The company plans to publish a detailed root cause analysis within the next 72 hours. The Microsoft 365 service health status currently reports no issues. However, per the registry yesterday, it stated that affected services include SharePoint, OneDrive, Microsoft Teams, Stream, Power BI, Planner, Forms, Power Apps, Dynamics 365, Intune, and Office Leasing. It did more than that. Our compute engine stuff was down. Like, we had our LMS system was totally offline. So basically it was a DNS error. They're going to give more details a little bit later, but this was a big impact, and I just kind of wanted to talk about it briefly here, just simply because, again, it's kind of one of those things where Microsoft has had this move into this space, and they are a big player in this space. They're the biggest now. They overtook AWS a few months ago. I don't know if they still are. I don't know exactly how that's mapped out right now, but Azure is big time. And to have them go down, this could I don't know. There's going to be a rippling effect of this. And there may be, typically what you also see is a rippling effect with how the company responds and the new processes that they put in place. And we'll see. I don't know if there's anything that's going to be affected on the client side, but I always worry about these things because there tends to be this like visceral reaction people have to issues like this. When our students are on this, are trying to use the system and it goes down, like we hear about it and they're angry. Just angry. How can you be down? And, all we can do is we can go back to Azure or Microsoft and say, hey, what's going on? And we just kind of have to wait until they get it all sorted out. And this reaction can lead to some pretty draconian actions taken in response. And I'm always worried about that. I'm always worried that when a company has something like this happen, and regardless of who it is, look, somebody made a mistake. It wasn't, I imagine that any one of us could see ourselves possibly making that mistake. Whatever it was, I'm sure that however it happened, nobody really did anything malicious. It's not like a hacker went in and screwed everything up. Somebody just screwed up, and that happens. And what's going to happen, though, is that little incident, that little screw up is going to have, companies from everywhere just chomping at the bit to get at Microsoft. And so Microsoft is going to have to put in some sort of plan, some way of saying this is never going to happen again. And, they might fire the guy or the people that were involved in it, or they might just, demote him. I don't know what they're going to do. But, they're going to try to do some sort of reactive thing. And this is kind of the nature of today, is everything is so reactionary. How could you possibly go down? I'm so angry because I don't have access to my thing for 2 hours. We've just gotten so used to it. It's crazy. Kent, you say, I've never used Azure. What would the individual use it for? I do have Office 365. So Azure is it's really just a cloud platform. It's more or less for businesses. If you wanted to build your own website and post it up online somewhere and have, just deploy your website somewhere. Like if that's all you wanted to do, you could do that. If you wanted to host your complete application, let's say you have a .NET Core app and you want to deploy that, you can do that as well. There's virtual machines. So Azure has a lot of stuff. So Azure has a VM capability too. So if you wanted to have your own desktop that's up in the cloud that you connect to do certain tasks, you can do that as well. So you can have a virtualized machine up in the cloud. They also host things like they have Docker, and you can deploy different Docker images up there, and you can manage. One of the things that I'm into, and I'm actually writing a course on right now, is microservices. So if you think about, one of the pioneers of this was Netflix, of this idea of microservices. And it's essentially where, rather than one big application, like if you can imagine Access, we've done some Access work. Access has like this one file, everything is contained in that one file. And what we call that is a monolithic application, or a monolith application, where everything is just in one place, okay? Where microservices takes a very different approach, because in that monolith application, let's say I had a change. Let's say I had some sort of update to a part of the application. I don't need to update the whole application. I just discovered a bug, I discovered some sort of issue, or I added some new feature, and I want to make that change available to everybody. Well, the process of updating that file, so the whole thing gets updated, and I have to redistribute that file to everybody. And that process is very, very cumbersome. So what microservices does is essentially, let's break it down. Let's just break that application down into its almost as small parts as we can possibly get to. We consider it into domains. Okay, we typically work on a domain of an area. So let's say you had an application like a sales, like a point of sale system. And so you've got orders, you've got an actual user interface for the point of sale, you've got invoicing, you've got inventory, you've got perhaps employees, you've got like some sort of, just running your day-to-day business. You've got all these different areas in what we call domains. So You'd have a domain for managing customers. You'd have a domain for managing orders. You'd have a domain for managing invoices. You'd have a domain for managing shipping. And like you split out the application into these separate domains. And sometimes even within those own domains, you'll have separate subdomains, if you will, that manage other like very, very specific parts. And each one of these domains is broken up into their own separate application. And the applications talk to each other. So by having them split apart, it means it's much easier to swap out those parts. Whenever you need to make a change, you just kind of take that one thing and swap it out with the new thing. And that's really a good tactic. It's kind of this single responsibility principle taken to the point where not just your classes and your functions are not just your classes and functions are separate within the application, but those things are separated into their own applications. So it's just kind of like taking that one step further of making things very pliable, very dynamic, easy to respond to change, that sort of thing. So we use Docker in a lot of cases to manage this, because with Docker images, what you actually have is a complete environment for your application, or for your task, they call it in some cases. Like AWS calls them tasks. So you have like this, you can put your application on a Docker image, and the Docker image is essentially kind of like a miniature Hyper-V. It's not really Hyper-V. It's like a virtual, like a virtual machine we've gotten used to. Well, Docker is kind of like that, but it's a little different. It's kind of its own self-contained environment that you can run your applications on, and it's very, very tiny. So it's not like a full operating system is required. Instead, it's just, here's the pieces of supporting software I need to run on this image, and then they all use the same kernel and operating system. So you can kind of like just partition out your apps into these separate environments to run completely independent from each other. And the great thing about this is, especially when you start running into things like down outages, if a service goes down because you've got some sort of error on it, these managed systems that Azure has can identify those downed Docker images. When those services shut down for whatever reason, it can identify that there's a problem on that and spin up a new one. It'll shut it down and spit up a brand new one. And it'll just manage that for you, so you don't even have to worry about it. It's fantastic. Would the website be hosted for free? They have like free introductory tiers to try to just kind of get you started with it. And most, like Google Cloud has it, AWS has it, Azure has it, where you can just kind of get started up for a year, and you have a starting set of credits. I think it's like $300 worth of credits if you start out. Maybe it's $100. It depends on who you go with. But you can start out, you can kind of test it out, see how it works, see if it's any good. And then you can kind of host it and see if it's worth it. Now, the costs that we're talking about are really inexpensive too. If you're going to be doing a full Hyper-V instance on Azure, that's quite a bit more expensive. Like, you're running a full-fledged computer. But if you're just running like a website off of it, you can see. We were doing one. We had one like Ubuntu OS that we were doing some deployment stuff with, and it was like $9 a month. Just really, really pretty inexpensive, and well worth putting up on the cloud sometimes, because then it's, you have it's always on. It's not something that you have to worry about whether or not it's going to have any uptime. But of course, if Azure continues to have issues like this, then there's going to be some problems with the uptime. All right. So Apple, I did a video yesterday on kind of this link perhaps between Israel and China and ScanDisk and, or not ScanDisk, I'm sorry, Supermicro. And they, I found this interesting. Apple blames Intel processor shortage for slump in Mac sales. Really? Just another little about this. I don't know what, again, I don't know what to make out of this. I don't want to sound conspiratorial. I don't want to sound kooky. And I don't really even know exactly how this all lines up. But there's just something seems off about this situation to me. How is it that how is it that somebody from Israel basically releases a report that goes to Bloomberg? Bloomberg basically blows up this story that says that China is infiltrating our infrastructure with these tiny microchips. So somebody from Israel reports to Bloomberg. Bloomberg writes this report that says there's an infiltration happening. And then we discover that Israel is shipping out more of their semiconductors and chips to China. And China is where most apples are made. I think, in fact, all apples are made in some shape or form in China. So I don't know. It seems to me there's a connection. I haven't quite figured out what's going on there, but man. And then to have this, well, Apple blames Intel processor shortage for slump in Mac sales. First of all, I don't agree with that. I don't think that that's true at all. But I'm not Tim Cook, so what do I know? But I think that the reason why there's a slump in Mac sales is simply because people are starting to discover that they're not really worth the price. You're paying a lot of money for an operating system that's really okay. Is it superior? Not really. As the Windows 10 operating system gets better, in fact, I don't see much reason why anybody would buy a Mac. I really don't. I've worked on both Macs and Windows systems, and I just prefer Windows. I really do. I think there's more capability with Windows. It's a little bit easier. It's a little bit more open, I guess. I don't know. I just really don't like the interface of a Mac. I just never have. But I know a lot of people swear by it. A lot of people love them. But I think that especially when you're pricing your laptops for like $2,300 or whatnot, and I can go buy a $500 laptop that's almost comparable. Why? Why would you spend that kind of money essentially just for the operating system? That's what you're buying. It's not the hardware. Hardware's not any better. Why would you spend an extra, $1,500? Let's just call it $1,500 that you're spending to go get an Apple when there's no hardware difference between those two price points. The only reason is the operating system. Can you tell me why the operating system is worth $1,500? I don't think you can. But again, they want to get into, we're slumping in sales because of Intel's processor shortage. I don't know what the evidence of this is. Just simply that there's a cost loss of sales. All right. Let's see. Any questions? Questions? Oh, nope. Still just Kent. Kent, you're a trooper, man. I got 6 people watching and only one person asking questions. You brave, brave soul. All right. What do we got next? So, this was pretty cool. I don't know, for some of you guys who are in the gaming world, this was kind of a major announcement, was Epic Games took over Rocket League. So I don't know if you guys know, those of you who are not in the gaming world, you don't know what Rocket League is, you don't know who Epic Games is, but this is kind of a big deal. So Rocket League is basically like a soccer game where you play with cars. It's like a huge giant soccer ball, and you run into this soccer ball with a car. Okay, and there's a bunch of other things like you get like boost ups and power ups and stuff like that help you do things. Your car flips and does things up in the air, and there's more to it than that. But the basics are it's a game of soccer. You got 2 goals, you got a big giant ball, and you're trying to use this car to just kind of like push the ball into the other opponent's net. Okay, pretty simple concept, really. It's been around for forever, right? But it's been a really popular game. It's one of the more popular, more well-established, and long-lasting games that's been out there. I think it predates Fortnite, in fact. It's somewhere around there. It's somewhere in that vicinity, like right around when Fortnite was released. So Fortnite, speaking of Fortnite, Epic Games is the developer for Fortnite, and they have purchased Rocket League. Now, This is interesting. This headline really grabbed my attention. Epic now says the fate of Rocket League on Steam is undecided. So Steam, for those of you who don't know, not familiar with the game world, Steam is basically a giant gaming platform for your PC. So if you're a PC gamer, you pretty much are going to have Steam. There's not too many other alternatives out there. You could do like Origin, I guess, but yeah. So Steam is like the number one player in the PC gaming space as far as a platform. You can think of it as kind of like Xbox or PlayStation, but a software version that you install on your computer. I guess that's probably the best way to put it. So this is kind of like where you get your games from, is Steam. And for them to say that they're not even sure that they're going to keep it, the wording of the press release made it sound like the game will no longer be available on Steam once it arrives on Epic Games Store later this week. Now the company is saying that it hasn't made a decision on one way or another. In a new statement to US Gamer, Epic explained that it didn't announce whether Rocket League will be pulled from sale on Steam. So they have their own store, to go get software and install it. And I don't know. I think that would be a mistake. I find that, okay, maybe because I know Steam takes like a portion of sales and stuff, and that's probably why, because they want to take that percentage back and make it themselves. I totally understand that. But I also think that part of the reason why a game gains that kind of popularity is because of the platform. Like, could you imagine if I said, I've got this AAA game that I want you guys to go play. I'm offering it initially on Xbox and PlayStation, or just Xbox. We'll just keep it simple. It's an Xbox game. Okay, so you go and you buy it, you get it on Xbox, everybody's happy, everybody starts talking about it, and then you say, guess what? We have our own new console that we're going to release, and you're not going to be able to get the game anymore on Xbox. You're going to have to buy ours. You're going to have to use our console in order to go get it. I don't know that that's the best idea. I really don't. Okay, well, I kind of expected fewer people showing up. Thank you so much, everybody, who did show up today. All 6 of you. Thank you, Mom. And of course, my wife, who's probably watching and wondering, what the heck is he talking about now? So I appreciate everybody who did show up today. And again, we have these Q&As every Friday. You guys are welcome to come check it out and ask me questions. Besides Kent, I love you, man. Thanks for being a member on my Programming Made Easy channel. I love you, buddy. But if you guys want to ask me questions, again, every Friday I do these Q&A sessions. You guys can come check it out. I try to at least talk about some stuff because especially when I only have 6 people watching, it's kind of hard to talk if no one's asking anything. So come back, have some questions for me. I'd love to talk to you guys. I don't know, politics or religion, those third rail subjects, or Social Security, Medicare, if you want to talk about Obamacare, if you want to talk about games, you want to talk about Rocket League, you want to talk about Fortnite, you want to talk about PUBG, you want to talk about Call of Duty. Oh, actually, that reminds me. Go check out this game. So it's called Days Gone. Okay. You're going to find, what's funny to me is how many reviewers, like quote unquote professional reviewers, are saying, oh, this game is repetitive. It's not that good. It's the main character is not all that interesting. I happen to know some of the people that work here, and I gotta tell you, like, it's a little unwarranted. And then when you go and take a look, this is what's even more funny about it. Look at the Metacritic score versus here's the critics, 72. The user score is 7.9. It was 8 for a while, and the Metacritic score was like 60 something for a while. So it's interesting to me that it seems like critics consistently get it wrong. Like these critics consistently say this is a bad thing, this isn't a good thing, or this is a good thing, and then like everybody else, all the users are like, what are you guys high when you're writing these? And here's probably my favorite example of all time of critics just being totally wrong, and that's this show, The Orville. So like Orville had a 31% for its first year, 31% according to the critics. But then the audience score is 94%. Now you tell me, is that because the audience is dumb and doesn't know what they're talking about? Or is this because maybe there's a little bit of some, I need some of this in order to give you a good review? I mean, give me a little bit of that. We want some money here in order. Like there's kind of this good old boy pact going on where if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of thing. Somebody coined the term, and I can't remember the term now all of a sudden, but it was like, good day, good day, good day. Kent. Yeah, I don't know. I think that these kind of, looking at the critic reviews of anything, including a game like Days Gone, you gotta take these critics with a grain of salt. I typically go for, what's the user score? What are the people actually saying? Like, what does this say? What does this say? What's the audience say? Who are the people watching? Who are the people playing the game? What do they have to say? That's who I listen to a little bit more. All right. Well, all right. I do need to end it there. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining, and I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I will see you guys again on Monday. Until then,